every year we try to cover at least 60 to 70% of our employees in some or the other program, which is not, online, which is actually a classroom focused learning.
In person.
There is support, right? So you ensure that equity is there to ensure inclusion, but we are doing it for the right reasons, right? That is there. Now, at this point of time, Godrej Properties is around 36% represented through diverse cohorts. And we have women, we have LGBTQIA representation, and we have PWD representation at this point of time.
Welcome to the CHRO Exchange podcast by Masters Union, where we delve into the minds of visionary HR leaders who are redefining talent management and workplace culture in transformative industries. Today, we are delighted to host Ms. Megha Goel, who is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Godrej Properties, a leading name in Indian real estate. Ms. Goel's journey as an HR leader spans a remarkable blend of industries from real estate to agribusiness, manufacturing, and financial services. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Megha Goel, who is the CHRO at Godrej Properties. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. It's an honor to have you here.
Hi.
I would just like to start with your journey, right? Your journey has been nothing short of fantastic. You're an engineer, went on to do an MBA in HR, right? And are sitting at a very coveted position at Godrej Properties right now. Like, what has led you here, right? I mean, any impact story you've had, while you're growing up, which kind of shaped your mind that, hey, look, I want to do HR and I want to rise up so quickly to this position. I mean, if you want to share anything about that.
Yonan, thank you so much for the question, and very excited to be here and to speak to your audience. So nothing of that sort in terms of saying that, had a very childhood aspiration of things. I think coming from a middle class family, parents were very clear about education and making a career. And I think that I'm really, really grateful to my parents, because I come from a very typical Marwadi household. The aspiration could have also been to just get married. But my father and my mother and all of them really built that aspiration that I need to be a career woman. And I think that has been one of the most important pieces. HR was not part of the plan as growing up. We did not know about some of these specializations when we were much younger there. HR happened when I started my work post my engineering at AkzoNobel, where I firstly saw an organization, and I really enjoyed the culture of that organization, where a contract labor and the MD, I actually saw them sitting on the same table and actually having their meal. Right. So from there on, I felt the need of doing an MBA. Though I wouldn't say that, the clarity of HR was not really there in my mind. As I moved forward, I got placed at Britannia, and that was a project in their Chennai factory. The project was about understanding the factory operations and trying to understand how we are complying to some laws, right? But as we progressed into the project, we were actually able to understand the productivity, how the factory should operate, what do the labor need, and we were able to really design a very good scheme that helped the organization and the employees there. And eventually it was also, taken to all the other manufacturing plants of Britannia. I just felt that there was a lot that could be done if you combine the principles of engineering management with people. Right. Bring a logical and empathetic solution there. A lot can be done, and organizations need that. And I think that is something that has really excited me even now to be in the field that I am in and to do the work that I do.
Very fantastic. No, so I think one interesting part in your journey has been that you have stayed with the same brand but different companies of Godrej for the longest, I think 11 years, right? You started up with Godrej Industries, moved to Godrej Agrovet, and now you're currently with Godrej Properties. What has led you to stick to the same brand for the longest is what I would want to understand.
Actually, my experience with Godrej is extremely close to my heart. So, firstly, I would say that the brand really stands for what it says, right? It's a 127-year young brand. And we're very specific about the young part of it because we ensure that we keep it young and, alive. the family and the philosophy and the principles of the way the group is handled is really authentically there. So not only in terms of what they say, but in terms of how they do things. And I think that has given the highest amount of confidence to any individual, including me, to be there. I joined the brand when I was expecting my first child, and right from there, I have seen a lot of support coming, as a professional, as a human being.
As a mother, yes.
As a mother as well, right? So I think that is the first thing that itself that kept me going with the brand. I think secondly, why does a person really shift? The person shifts because the person sometimes feels that the role is getting monotonous, etc. So how does Godrej address that? Two things. One, the group itself helps. So if you shifted around, you're getting into a very different kind of experience. So it's all starting. It's like it's a exposure of a new organization itself. Second, the group really gives you the freedom and empowerment to try your own things, bring up ideas which are relevant for the business, and they're actually appreciated and celebrated. Right? So you're never really feeling that you're really bored. I think the last and the final thing is that you really feel that you're part of doing something right, right? Whether it comes to building the nation, whether it comes to doing something right for your employees and the communities at large. And it goes to the first thing that I said, that authentically done, right? So whenever you're working as part of a regular day at Godrej, you feel that, you are working for a purpose and you're doing it for the larger good. Right? And that's how our roles are designed, our abilities are used. I think that really keeps you on every single day.
I think that's very interesting. Big brands don't become big overnight, right? They practice it and they empower their people, and that's very evident through your story, right? Now, talking about Godrej Properties, right? I was reading that around 70% of the leaders currently in the system are homegrown. Essentially, they were people who joined and have ended up becoming the leaders at the company. Now, this talks about two things, right? First, the strong core design of the company, and also the company's been able to retain its people, right? And retention is generally a problem which corporate faces, right? I mean, what are these different strategies Godrej deploy, right, to make sure that people are grown and upskilled every single day so that they end up becoming leaders, and also, they retain them positively?
Uh, Biggest focus for us actually. We as a group and even at Godrej Properties don't believe in an organization where you're just churning around people. It's not a long-term approach, very frankly. Now, you talked about growing from within, and that's a core principle for us at Godrej Properties. And again, why is it core for us? Because if you look at, as an employee or as a candidate, when you're joining a organization, everyone is joining an organization thinking that the person would make a career there. Most of the times people are not joining an organization thinking that, we'll do it for 2 years and then we'll look for the other. If you speak to people, that is the human element.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Thing goes wrong in the promise, the delivery between the organization and the individual.
Right.
We just try to match that piece as much as possible. And I'm not saying that we're doing everything right, but we try to match them. A few things that we do. How do we grow is that our roles, our everyday working has been kept in a way that it's almost giving you 70 to 80% training on the job. Even in the sector, people know that if someone has worked with Godrej Properties, the role and everyday nature of handling complexity, of handling the scale, handling speed is very, very valuable. The second is supporting them through learning initiatives. We have an in-house academy called as Alchemy, which focuses on various aspects of an individual's journey with us. So there are functional programs, there are leadership programs, there are behavioral programs. And every year we try to cover at least 60 to 70% of our employees in some or the other program, which is not, online, which is actually a classroom focused learning.
In-person
Yeah,
approach.
I wouldn't say that, it's the in-person approach is that's to be stressed on. The stress is that we are focused on the journey. So we are focused on ensuring that the person is actually learning, whether it is coming through online, offline, case study method, whatever it is, right? So the third thing, and I think that's a very unique part, is to take bets on people. And I always say that the organization took a bet on me to trust me with this responsibility when I was an extremely young leader and I was not a CHRO before. I think we passed that on. Our management committee is grown from within and they are all extremely young leaders. So the organization ethos is to really identify leaders, very young, who have high potential, and just not think about age, years of experience, etc., but think about the potential and the value that they can create and give them roles accordingly. So we have something called as talent war room. It's a very different kind of a concept that was designed by the team, where our managers come and pitch for their team members, and they say that this particular role, I want to pitch this team member. This person can be ready now, ready in 2 years, or ready in 3 years. So there is a conversation around that, and it's like a Shark Tank kind of a concept, and there will be a panel who will be sitting and grilling the manager to say that why this, that, etc. Eventually, we come to a list of people that we identify are high potential. And then the whole year, we ensure that these people actually get those roles. Right. And we have done this for many years now, and we continue to do that. So some of these things just help us identifying talent, as organizations grow larger, it's extremely important to find ways of knowing who is good.
Correct. So I think identification, nurturing, and retention is sorted through, young leaders stepping in, talking, and, kind of putting a very high confidence on who they're working with.
No, you're absolutely right, Shikhar. And we have seen that our batches which have gone through some kind of a learning intervention, or our batches who are part of the talent war room, they show much less attrition and far higher retention as compared to others. They also show better performance as compared to others, because eventually they also feel happy and engaged that the organization is invested in them.
Correct. Absolutely.
Helps the relationship to go forward.
Very interesting. We just spoke about the ethos of the group, right? There's diversity and inclusion, right? I mean, that's also very core to the Godrej group as a whole, right? Just want to understand in your tenure, right? Any DEI initiative you have taken to make sure there are people from different communities and backgrounds who are represented in the company, right? Anything you want to talk about?
No, actually many. And I would like to say that for Godrej, again, DNI is not a Western concept. And we are very clear about it. And in fact, it's very heartwarming to see that as so many of these giants are rethinking our policies, our internal discussions are about how do we reinforce it even stronger. We are born out of the Swadeshi movement. We are extremely Indian, and we believe that the diversity of India is what needs to be represented in the right manner, right? So, and that's where our ethos on diversity and inclusion comes in, and that's why I feel extremely proud about that. We don't talk about the business case of some of these things. We know that it is the right thing to do. That does not mean that it's a quota system. Right? There is extremely high performance orientation. There is support, right? So you ensure that equity is there to ensure inclusion, but we are doing it for the right reasons, right? That is there. Now, at this point of time, Godrej Properties is around 36% represented through diverse cohorts. And we have women, we have LGBTQIA representation, and we have PWD representation at this point of time.
And 36% is a huge number.
Yeah.
In terms of diversity.
Yes, as compared to the sector, it is extremely, progressive or extremely strong in terms of the representation that we have.
Because in real estate, there are still some segments which are stereotypically associated with males, because getting onto the field, staying at the projects, that's there's a stereotype that, males can execute it. But in an organization which deals in such an industry, 36% is a fantastic number.
And Shikhar, that's some of the things that we also want to change. We don't want, who said that a civil operations is only a male centric function. And we are trying to get women, in execution roles. And when you listen to a lot of women's stories, they would tell you that, someone told them to do a desk job, go into planning, or probably go into CNB or CNP because that is better suited. But if someone encouraged them and gave them the enabling environment to actually go and stand on the site and get it executed, a woman was happy to do that, right? We are trying to bring that kind of an equity in. And it's coming from a place, Shikhar, that if you want to have a COO who is a woman in future, the person should have done execution, right? Should have done so many other things, but can't. And that's what is happening right now. We are saying that we don't have senior leadership representation, but if you go down, you are actually not building it from there itself. At that point of time, we are saying that, okay, you don't need to do line sales, you can get into marketing. And if we are almost compelling, our diverse groups to not find conducive environments to do that. Right. I was at a talk at some point of time where someone was talking about delivery stations and how it is very difficult for women to pick up heavy boxes. And I was like, no one should pick up heavy boxes. Even a man should not pick up heavy boxes. And is it that difficult in this era to find a solution for this? But we are making that as a constraint to hire women, right? I think that is what we want to really change as part of what we are trying to do. Some of the initiatives that have helped us, one is internships. So we launched the first ever Pride internship, where we said that if you had to hire LGBTQIA individuals, and no one is coming with a real estate experience, obviously you will not find people from this cohort. So we said that we will, invest in a 9-month internship with them, get them to learn, get the managers to know them, and then start taking them in. Now we have extended a similar one to PWD as well. All right, so one of those things. Second, I think really understanding the equity element has helped us. For example, we launched something called as trans gender accommodations. All right, we realized that our trans employees were not getting accommodation.
Right accommodation.
No, even, no kind of accommodation because there's just so much of bias around.
Towards, letting them...
Yeah, so we had an employee who was staying with us in our guest house for the first period after she joined. And then when she had found a place on rent and she went to shift there. And, at that time, and it was late evening, the RWA just, said that we will not allow you to move here. And when we started to find this out further, we realized that there's a lot of our societies which are actually not allowing, accommodation for some of them. So we said that, okay, we will get into this. We will, find out accommodation. And, now we have Godrej provided accommodation for some of these individuals, right? So some of these kind of equity pieces, how do you ensure that, their medical pieces around gender transition are completely taken care of and you are best in class around some of those things? We have this year started something called as CHRO, which is Collective of Real Estate Women, where we are just trying to engage with women across in the sector and talking about some of the things that I spoke about in the beginning to say that, we need to build women careers, right? And we have launched the fourth city. So we started from Pune, Ahmedabad, Delhi and Mumbai. So we've just launched the fourth city. And through all of them, we've been able to engage with around 1,500 plus women across these four cities and talking about the same things. Right. So I think some of these are the things that really help us enhance what we are trying to say from an ethos perspective.
Right. So I think there's a lot of talk on, how do we empower such people? But I think the real difference lies in execution and, hearing your thoughts on, how Godrej has executed policies and these small nuances, right? I think that's very helpful to understand. I want to also talk about employee and mental health being, I want to also talk about employee and mental well-being, right? There's a lot of talk around, work-life balance, well-being of individuals, right? Just want to understand what are these different strategies and what are these different tactics the company has taken to ensure that, people at Godrej feel secure and feel at the top of their mental well-being.
So Shikhar, I think we keep it pretty simple. The idea is to start with the human being first. Right? A lot of times when you're giving the names of an employee, or sometimes calling them candidates, you forget that there's a human being. Right? Does human being need support in terms of work-life balance, mental health? Absolutely, every human being does that, and that's where we also come from. And at Godrej, we actually really emphasize on that. I think it's been around 1.5 decades now that we have an unlimited sick leave policy. So we say that if you're unwell, we can't really say that you will be all right in 10 days. So there's no quota for you. Right? So if you're unwell, you're unwell. You need time to recuperate. Obviously you will be given that. So, Shikhar, actually, at the core of it, we keep it very simple. And it comes from a place to say that every person is a human being. Right? We give a lot of labels to people. We say women, men, employee, candidate, etc., leader. But all it goes down is to becoming that whole basic thing of being a human.
Right.
Now, every human being needs time off. Every human being needs work-life balance. Every being needs, support on mental health, physical health, and all kinds of things. And we are extremely clear about some of those things. And it's not a new concept for us. If I have to give you an example, we have a policy on unlimited sick leaves. And we totally believe that, this quota system of having 10 days of sick leaves does not make sense. When you're unwell, you don't know whether you will be okay in 10 days or you will, need much more than time than that. So this was approximately 15 years ago, which is like 1.5 decade ago, that we said that we want to have an unlimited sick leave policy because this is a trust-based leave.
Right.
We want to extend the trust to our employees to say that if you're sick, you report sick. We will not deduct any number of days, etc., from anywhere. And we actually saw the number of leaves reducing because, then employees also over a period of time are not looking at it as a quota. They're looking at it as when they need it. If you look at our care policies, and I'll take another example. For example, medical insurance. The world outside gives medical insurance, which kind of increases as you become senior in the organization.
Right, tiered system.
Tiered system, right? At Godrej, it's the flat for every single person. And the thought is that when a person is in need for medical support and the person is getting into that hospital, the person is a human being.
Right.
The person at that point of time is not level 1, level 2, level 3 employee. It's a human being, and the human being needs support. And everyone's heart ailment needs the same amount of money. Right? And that's our small way of ensuring that everyone gets equal access to medical facilities as long as you are a Godrej employee. Right? When it comes to work-life balance, again, we are a fast-growing organization and we are extremely performance-oriented. But we also talk about ensuring that balance should be there.
Right.
Right? And we do a lot of initiatives. We have something called as Harmony Hours, where we are very clear that there should be no emails and work communication that should happen after 8 p.m. In any of our work.
Irrespective of any urgency.
So if it is extremely urgent, that is a very different thing. But then, it is also given the responsibility on the leader to really understand what is urgent.
Yes.
And we call it out. We actually look at data. We say that, how many emails were exchanged, etc. at that point of time. And if it's extremely urgent, obviously, all of us will be.
But in general, the organization understands that these are peace hours or harmony hours, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So these are some of our initiatives. I would still say that, it's something that needs continuous reinforcement.
Right.
But we are very clear that we will continue to do that. We have all the support provided for mental support, mental health. And it's not new for us. We have been doing it for many years. We have something called as the Godrej Leadership Forum, which meets once in a year. And all the global leaders across the world, they come in and we meet for 2 days. Every leadership forum, I have seen, leaders having conversations around mental health in general, physical health, things like sleep apnea, diversity, inclusion. So the whole idea is that, we keep doing these conversations and we keep reinforcing that these are the key ethos around which the organization is built.
No, I'm actually very glad that, I'm getting this chance to undiscover some of these, again, basic but very fundamental rights and policies, right, which the company has executed. A lot of our viewers are actually startup enthusiasts, MBA students, right, who eventually want to end up, starting something of their own. I mean, these are some lessons, people should hear and people should implement to make sure their employees at any level are empowered and they feel connected to the organization. We also spoke about data, right, in the conversation. No, I'm very personally curious, right? So currently we are at a time wherein there's so much happening in technology. There are so many data backed decisions, right, which organizations adopt and comply with. While you're at the intersection of that technology and people layer, right, there's always a level of gut feeling a people leader would always have, right? That this is what my organization is feeling about, or this is what people have a sentiment about, right? Now, sitting at that gut feeling and sitting at that data backed decision, I mean, how do you approach it? Do you always keep it 100% data backed? Do you always keep it gut feeling backed? How do you approach such situations?
It's a combination, very frankly. um, Things have to start from data, because it's not about that data has to show you everything, but data helps you to segment and target. Right. And there is always a play of segmenting, but still individualizing.
Right.
Right. So data helps you there. And in fact, when you have to take large organization driven decisions, they do come at the back of data. But there's a huge element of empathy, human element, that goes in. And obviously there's some amount of gut as well, that a lot of times when the decision has not been taken and you're taking calls, for example, this unlimited sick leave.
Yep.
Right? And these were leaders, who were there for a very long time, who took this call. It's coming from, that space of gut to say that, let's try something different. And it's coming from our ethos. So technically it sounds right? Because we believe in this, and
Correct.
This is tied up to this, and maybe then you pilot it a bit and see whether it's working or not. Right. So these are some of the ways in which you approach these things. At Godrej, I have learned that most of the times, if you take some of these right decisions, it has always paid back to the organization. And take this example of COVID time. And, when the lockdown was getting announced, and it got announced around 23rd of March or so.
Yes.
We sent out a note to our employees around 18th March or so, saying that we are seeing something unpredictable around there. So why don't we all be careful and let's start working from home and avoid coming out. And imagine, this is a peak period, March ending,
Right.
for any kind of a Indian sales organization.
Right.
It's not easy for someone to take this.
Very bold
kind of
call.
It's a so we took that call, and later, a week after that, the lockdown was also announced. But that 15 days, we also did unprecedented sales. And when you were saying that, a lot of startup owners, etc., would be listening to this, I want to leave that message there, that, goodness and doing things for the right reason does pay back. Right. And I'm taking these examples which are extremely immediate, but again, in the long term, if you want to create something for the long term, you have to start thinking long term. You can't take calls which are, very here and now, and you're, trying to save a penny here or there. It's important for you to start thinking in a particular manner and taking calls accordingly.
I think that these are some very insightful views, right? I think very, very good messages to take back, once you hear this podcast. I think I would also want to do a small exercise with you, right? Imagine we are seated in 2035, right? And 10 years later, what do you think are the 2-3 things that will go obsolete, right, in HR, what we are currently doing, right? And what do you think are the 1-2 things which will just pick up, right? And which will actually define the future of HR, or maybe future of HR in the real estate sector?
I'll first say that what will stay on. I think what will stay on and probably become even more stronger is technology. Right? B is actually caring for your employees. Empathy. And I think there's a lot of conversation, and people in common parlance call it servant leadership and so many other things, right? But the whole piece around caring for employees, and that is going to become your key differentiator over a period of time. These are the 2 things that will come up in a very big manner as we go forward. I think what could probably, become obsolete, and I'll not say obsolete, but we may have much better ways and methods to
Yeah, that's
get
a
this
better way.
done. Yeah, I think again with the use of technology and with a lot more, advent of all these GCCs coming in, a lot of work I think will change the form of how it's happening. For example, at this point of time, we may be spending indiscriminate amount of time on paperwork, on doing transactional processes.
Correct.
Some of those will really reduce. I think over the last 10 years they have reduced considerably. COVID was a big example which made a huge amount of transition for us. Over the next 10 years that will reduce a lot more. I would also say that there's a lot of noise about AI coming in, and I have consciously not said that AI is that thing that will. Obviously, AI will be a big enabler. I'm not, and the technology piece will cover that, but the whole human judgment part of it, the whole empathy part of it, at this point of time, at least we don't see AI replacing it,
Right.
and that's why all the more become the key differentiator of how organizations will be managed in future.
So essentially, it's the technology, and and at the core of it, it's understanding of people.
Yeah,
Right.
it's the hard and the soft.
That is something which is gonna prevail, no matter even if it's 10 years, 20 years also.
Correct.
Interesting. I think if someone's reached this point of the podcast, right, I think there has to be some kind of juice for that person to also take back from this conversation. Since I'm getting this opportunity to interact directly with you, who's a CHRO, right, at Godrej, I would just want to understand what are those 2-3 skills which are just non-negotiable if someone desperately wants to join Godrej, right? I mean, I would want to portray this as a secret sauce of getting into Godrej.
Great. Okay, Shikhar. So actually, I would say, firstly, I will make it even more broad. Any organization, what is the secret sauce to having a career wherever you would like to? Whether it's a startup, whether you want to start on your own. I think first having the strength of a functional capability. Right. And startups have actually diluted this a bit because you don't really need to know it, but you know the basics of things. Right. A lot of times, the Indian academic system doesn't focus a lot on basics. And a lot of us are probably not. Especially I would say when it comes from MBA, we are a lot more in terms of, talking about the big things, but, forgetting, what is the context of where things are coming from.
Right.
So how do you build that strong muscle of capability on what you want to do? I think that is the first thing. And the more you invest in it in your earlier ages, the more it goes beyond, right? I say it in a way of saying that, what do you want to stand for, right? So, and if you really get that right, it becomes a core muscle for you,
Right.
that, builds going forward. I think second is building the people piece, right? So how are you able to understand people, take them along, and create impact through people? I think that is the second thing. The third thing is combining both of them, your capability and people, which is a judgment. All right. And it's a skill. If you very consciously think about the 10 decisions that you have taken, right? Out of those 10 decisions, no one expects all 10 of them to go right. But as a professional, are you working towards ensuring that every year, every month, am I moving progressively forward?
Is there a delta or not?
Is there a delta or not? Right? And it's extremely important. See, what happens in large organizations, eventually people are working out of trust. And where is that trust coming from? That trust is coming because the person believes that you will take the right judgment when it comes to, people, when it comes to their ethos, values.
Right.
Right. And you have the capability to take that right judgment. So people are trusting you because of your ability to take the right judgments.
Correct.
If you are, taking wrong decisions many times, after a point of time, no one will really trust you.
Correct.
Right. So it's extremely important to build trust, have these pieces around having strong capability, work on your core and fundamentals, work on people, and finally build your muscle to take judgments. You spoke about data, you spoke about gut. whatever is your method is, but it's important that you find your method to take the right decisions.
So I think very important takeaways for someone who wants to actually build a very long career in his or her life, right? You spoke about capability, right? Just want to understand if someone wants to come up to speed to what's happening in real estate, right? Or maybe wants to develop a muscle in understanding the business or the industry as a whole. Can you direct that person with 2 3 resources, or like what should that person read to become like a master of this industry?
It depends upon in which area the person wants to become master. So when you talk about the macroeconomic pieces and how the sector is being, this thing, how the sector is kind of growing, there's a lot of resources in common forum, which is, a lot of times our leaders are speaking. For example, Gaurav Pandey, who's the MD of the organization, and there was recently a talk that he delivered. I don't remember the channel, but it's actually like a master class in understanding where real estate is right now,
Interesting.
and how the economy is going to impact it and how it's going to go in future. There is a lot, that can be learned from, what is happening across the world as well in the sector, in the real estate.
I think we are towards the end of this podcast, but one question I would just want to understand is, if someone joins Godrej Properties post MBA, right? Like, what is that first year of that human looks like, right? And what are the different kind of roles in which that person gets absorbed?
Great. So, Shikhar, we actually hire extensively from management campuses, and we follow something called as build from within. I spoke about it in the earlier part also, growing from within. It's part of our overall build strategy. So, the idea is that how do you induct new talent into the sector and into the organization? So, when we hire MBAs, the first 9 months to 1 year is a structured management training program. So, we hire MBAs for sales and marketing, HR, strategy, business development, P&L, procurement, some of these kind of roles. So the idea is that in the first 9 to 12 months, the person gets an exposure into real-time workings of how the role looks like, right? So we have different kinds of track. For example, if there's a P&L track, the person gets a different kind of an exposure. If it's a sales and marketing track, the exposure is different, right? The idea is that as soon as those, the track gets over, or the period of management trainingship gets over, the person gets a full-time job, and then the person is absorbed as a completely, adept professional in your organization. So if it's a sales employee, the sales employee will also be managing a team. So imagine after a few months from your MBA, you are given a team to handle, and most of the times the targets are in crores. Right. So that is the kind of expectation or kind of opportunity that a management graduate gets 9 to 12 months out of campus at Godrej Properties. And the 9 to 12 months are well equipped to ensure that the person learns all of this and explores his or her potential towards these things.
I think that's a very fantastic way of, giving a flavor of what the company does, what the different roles are, and then, absorbing them in a particular stint after, giving a flavor of different kind of setups which are available. Well, I think that was a very interesting conversation and very engaging one. I think if I had not done that, I would have never undiscovered the best-in-class HR practices and policies which exist in the system. I thank you for your time, and again, a very meaningful conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Shikhar. I enjoyed it as well. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks.
Thank you.